The strange thing about the 2027 Buick Envision is that almost nobody talks about it like a serious luxury SUV until they actually drive one. Then suddenly the conversation changes, because this thing quietly does something most compact SUVs fail at now. It feels calm. Not fake luxury calm, not overloaded with screens calm. Just genuinely refined in a way that makes daily driving feel easier instead of more exhausting. And honestly, that might matter more in 2027 than another oversized grille or a pointless 0 to 60 brag. But there's still a real question here. Is the Envision actually worth buying long-term, or is it just another decent-looking crossover that fades into the background after 6 months? That's where things get interesting. Exterior design and dimensions. Buick didn't try to reinvent the Envision for 2027, and that was probably the right move. The shape is sleek without trying too hard, and the proportions finally look expensive enough to justify the badge. From certain angles, especially in darker colors, it almost feels European. The front lighting signature is sharp, the body lines stay clean, and thankfully, Buick resisted the temptation to plaster fake vents everywhere. It also sits in a sweet spot size-wise, not so large that parking becomes annoying, but roomy enough that adults can actually survive in the back seat without complaining after 20 minutes. That balance matters more than people think, especially if this SUV ends up being your everyday commuter, family hauler, and road trip machine all at once. And unlike some rivals, the Envision doesn't scream for attention. It has confidence without trying to become the loudest SUV in the Costco parking lot. Interior and daily comfort. This is where the Envision starts separating itself from cheaper crossovers pretending to be premium. The cabin feels relaxed, not flashy, not overloaded, just thoughtfully executed. The seats are supportive over long drives, road noise stays impressively low, and the suspension tuning has that soft but controlled Buick personality buyers either love immediately or completely overlook until they spend a week commuting in one. And that's really the Envision's secret weapon. You get inside after a stressful day, shut the door, and the outside world fades away more than you expect in this class. Material quality also feels noticeably improved compared to older Buicks. The stitching looks cleaner, the surfaces feel richer, and even the layout avoids that cluttered tech demo approach a lot of automakers are obsessed with right now. Rear seat comfort is another pleasant surprise. Taller passengers won't feel cramped, and the cargo area is practical without sacrificing the sleek roofline. Technology and safety. The curved display setup finally gives the Envision a more modern atmosphere, but thankfully Buick didn't bury every basic function inside touchscreen menus. That alone deserves appreciation in 2027. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are expected at this point, but the interface itself feels smoother than some GM products from a few years ago. Driver assistance tech is also fairly comprehensive. Adaptive cruise control, lane centering, surround view cameras all help the Envision feel easier to live with in crowded cities and long highway stretches. The biggest win here isn't flashy innovation, it's the fact that the systems don't constantly annoy you. That sounds simple, but modern SUVs often overwhelm drivers with beeps, warnings, and overly aggressive steering corrections. The Envision feels more natural and less stressful.
Performance and driving feel. Nobody buys a Buick expecting sports car reflexes. That's not the mission here. The turbocharged engine feels responsive enough around town, and the power delivery suits real-world driving surprisingly well. It moves confidently away from stoplights, merges onto highways without drama, and stays smooth during relaxed cruising. What stands out more is the tuning. The steering feels light, but predictable, and the suspension absorbs rough pavement better than many rivals with oversized wheels and stiff setups pretending to be sporty. This SUV understands comfort, and honestly, that's refreshing. A lot of competitors chase fake athleticism and end up becoming tiring to drive every day. The Envision goes the opposite direction, and for many buyers, that decision will age extremely well. Real-world fuel economy. Official fuel economy numbers rarely tell the full story, especially once traffic, weather, and real people enter the equation. In actual daily use, the 2027 Envision should realistically land somewhere around the upper 20s on the highway and low to mid-20s in mixed driving, depending on trim and driving habits. That's solid for a premium compact SUV with all-wheel drive. More importantly, the Envision doesn't feel thirsty during normal commuting. You're not constantly watching the fuel gauge disappear after short errands. For buyers searching 2027 Envision real-world MPG, the answer is reassuringly normal. Not groundbreaking, but efficient enough to avoid becoming expensive to live with. Daily driving experience. This is the section where the Envision quietly wins people over. Visibility is decent, the ride stays composed in traffic, parking isn't stressful, the cabin remains hushed even at highway speeds. After a while, you stop noticing individual features because the entire vehicle simply feels easy to live with. That's harder to achieve than it sounds. Some SUVs impress during a 15-minute test drive and become irritating 6 months later. The Envision feels like the opposite. It reveals its strength slowly through daily use, especially on longer commutes. Long-term reliability. This is where many buyers become cautious, and understandably so. Buick's reliability has improved significantly over the past decade, especially compared to older GM reputation issues people still remember. The Envision also benefits from using fairly proven mechanical components instead of experimental engineering. That matters for long-term ownership. Will it be Toyota-level bulletproof? Probably not, but the Envision increasingly feels like one of those underrated vehicles that quietly reaches high mileage with proper maintenance while attracting far less attention online. The biggest reliability advantage here may actually be simplicity. Buick isn't overcomplicating the formula with unnecessary performance tuning or ultra-aggressive technology, and historically, calmer engineering usually ages better. Maintenance and repair costs. Maintenance costs should stay relatively manageable compared to German luxury competitors. Oil changes, brakes, tires, and routine servicing won't feel outrageously expensive, especially if you stay within the dealer network or use trusted independent shops familiar with GM products. That's an underrated ownership advantage. A lot of compact luxury SUVs become financially exhausting after warranty coverage ends. The Envision sits in a safer middle ground between mainstream affordability and premium comfort. Ownership costs and resale value. Now here's the downside. Resale value probably won't match rivals from Lexus or Toyota. That's simply reality. Buick still doesn't carry the same resale strength or brand demand, especially in the used market. But there's another side to that equation. Because resale is softer, used Envisions often become surprisingly attractive bargains for second owners. So if you plan to keep the SUV for many years instead of flipping it quickly, depreciation becomes less painful emotionally. And honestly, the Envision makes more sense as a long-term ownership vehicle.
Hidden features and surprises. One thing people rarely expect is how quiet this SUV feels at night. There's a relaxed character to the cabin lighting, the seat comfort, and the suspension tuning that almost feels old-school luxury in a good way. Another surprise is how mature the overall driving experience feels compared to flashier competitors. It doesn't constantly beg for your attention, it just works. And in a world where cars increasingly behave like oversized smartphones, that simplicity becomes surprisingly appealing. Comparison with competitors. Against the Honda CR-V or Toyota RAV4, the Envision feels noticeably more refined and quieter inside. Against luxury rivals like the Lexus NX, it may lack some badge prestige and resale strength, but it often delivers comparable comfort for less money. And compared to many sporty European SUVs, the Buick simply feels less exhausting to own. That's really the Envision's lane. Not flashy, not aggressive, just smooth, refined, and easier to live with than most people expect. Pros and cons. The biggest strengths: excellent ride comfort, quiet cabin, relaxed daily usability, reasonable maintenance cost, and a genuinely upscale interior experience. The weaknesses? Resale value could be stronger, performance won't excite enthusiasts, and the brand still lacks prestige compared to established luxury rivals. Final verdict: would I buy it? If I wanted a compact SUV that impressed strangers for 5 minutes, I'd probably look elsewhere. But if I wanted something refined, comfortable, realistic to own long-term, and genuinely pleasant every single day, the 2027 Buick Envision becomes surprisingly convincing. It's one of those vehicles that doesn't dominate headlines, but quietly nails the ownership experience most people actually live with. And honestly, that may be worth more than hype.